Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast, where we sit down and dissect the latest and the greatest in film. I am your host for this evening, Dan Allen Movies on Instagram, on Twitter. And I'm joined by Marshall on Film with an underscore at the end on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd. How you doing?
Dan, you missed something, okay? It's been gone now for a few episodes. Our fans are begging that it return. Where is my introduction of over 2,300 movies on my Letterboxd watch list? Listeners, episode number 30. What a milestone. And yet the watch list just keeps getting bigger.
Do you reckon it'll ever get to 5,000?
If I spend any more time on that website, absolutely yes. And if we watch any more films from a certain French director that we might be discussing a bit later on in today's episode, then it definitely could grow substantially.
How many do you think I have now? Because when we first started this podcast, I had 87. How many do you think I have
87?
now?
Is that all?
That's all I had. But now, give me a number.
I reckon you've been very exclusive with your VIP club. You're on the guest list or you're not in. That's it. There's just no excuses with you, Dan Allen Movies. I'm going to say for your comedy club, you're at 100 entries.
You wouldn't believe it. 670 films. Yeah.
What happened? I thought you were cutting that thing down.
Well, I went down the rabbit hole like you do, where you pick an actor. Oh, I haven't seen this. And by the time you're done, you pick a few actors. Great. You're already 100, 200 down. I went through Jim Carrey, and look, half of these I've seen. It's just that I want to review them again, watch them again with fresh eyes.
Yes.
So when I say there's 670, how many have I actually seen? Probably 400 or 500 of them.
Yeah.
Just going back and going through. But still, it's good to get that fresh eyes on the film. Did you watch anything this week, Jackson, besides the Florida Project and, of course, our review for today, Joker?
Absolutely. You know what I caught in the last week? We've had some pretty dark, some pretty terrifying, some pretty grim films. It's funny you mentioned Jim Carrey. I watched Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Wow, that's a random one to watch. What made you get back into that?
I needed something lighthearted. I needed to be brought back to reality. I was locked out there, maybe in a mental ward, maybe in a lighthouse, maybe even in a black hole. And I was like, come on, time to come back to reality. Looking at Ace Ventura, Pet Detective with a fresh set of eyes, having a transgender, bisexual antagonist that everyone seems to be disgusted at and almost vomiting when they realize the true gender of who the actress, why am I forgetting her name? Sean from Blade Runner? Anyway.
Jackson.
It's a bit problematic. I know it's a movie from 25 years ago, but something didn't quite sit right. However, still a total banger of a picture. I have to still go out and recommend Ace Ventura. Jim Carrey's energy and this co-written script from him is...
Do you know what I watched from Jim recently?
I don't really care.
Cable Guy.
Oh, goodness me. Ben Stiller. Take us through it.
Ben Stiller? Was he in that?
He wasn't in it, buddy. He directed it.
Oh, wow.
Ben Stiller, short of becoming a Hollywood A-lister, was still directing, writing, producing films at that time in the 90s. It does star Matthew Broderick. Wasn't a massive hit. Jim Carrey, total height of his fame. What did you think?
Wasn't his best work. I didn't mind it, though. It gets a lot of hate, though, doesn't it, from the community, and like it's not known as a classic Jim Carrey film like his others, Truman Show, The Mask, etc.
Yeah, well, considering how subversive it is, it'd be right at home in this podcast, but for 1996 audiences, it might have been a little bit ahead of its time.
Do you know what I watched in terms of comedies this week? Go back 40 years. Go back 40 years and try and figure out what the film I watched.
40 years?
Absolute classic film.
Oh, tell me, Dan. I'm going to put on a prop here for our listeners.
Yeah,
someday we'll be live streaming these.
Yeah,
we've got it out.
Yes, he knows.
Ladies and gentlemen, It's time for takeoff. Dan,
it's time for takeoff.
Flying High, a.k.a. Airplane?
I sure did. What a film.
Oh, what did you think?
What a classic, eh? God, it still holds up.
I hosted a movie drinking night just the other week where we went through Airplane, and what a film.
Well, I got some comments saying, Dan, you do a lot of contemporary films. You've reviewed everything from 2019, everything from 2020. What about you go back 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years? And so I've taken that advice, and I will. I'm going to start doing a few more reviews. I'm going to go back and take a look at some of Hitchcock's, some of Kubrick's work, some of Kurosawa's work, and really get stuck in there over the next few months, which is going to be incredible. I can't wait.
What about some Godard, some Louis Buñuel?
I'll get there
Federico
eventually.
Fellini,
Let's start with
Pasolini,
let's start with three of the best to ever do it, and work our way from there. Because there's
maybe
plenty
some Murnau,
plenty of films I haven't seen from all three of them. I know you haven't seen them all.
maybe
either.
some James Whale.
Maybe some Nolan, maybe some Lynch. I was having this debate the other day with a friend, Jackson. I want to ask your opinion. In all honesty,
It wasn't me
I hate
on
to
this
bring up
podcast.
Nolan's name in this podcast. Hate it. I just hate bringing him up because he just never
Tenet.
gets enough airtime. I wanted to ask you, in 10, 20, 30 years, we look back, is he going to be up there with a Kubrick? Is he going to be up there with a Hitchcock? When it's all said and done.
You could argue he already is.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Many of Kubrick's films were not looked on favorably upon first release. And I believe that, some of those sentiments could be echoed now throughout Nolan's work. We can think to Insomnia at first release, certainly to Interstellar, and maybe another movie we haven't just seen yet, but we'll stop rubbing salt in the wound. So,
stop.
yeah, I think in 20, 30 years' time, you could definitely be looking back on his films and saying, geez, we just kind of took them for granted, didn't we? What spectacles. Dan, we've had enough hot dogging here. Let's look at another director whose movie filmography is mixed, to say the least.
Todd.
He did give one of the biggest films of 2019. You said it. Todd, not Todd McFarlane from Spawn, or Seth MacFarlane from Family Guy. Todd Phillips. What's the movie, Dan? We're covering it today. The We Watchers podcast, 30 episodes.
30
people.
episodes.
You wanted this
Cheers,
episode.
Jackson.
You
Cheers.
got it.
You
Cheers.
didn't think we'd make it through 10, let alone 20.
I didn't think we made it through 3.
Let alone 30. What was it? Was it my charming good looks? Was it my charismatic opinions? Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. What was it?
It was all the A24 films.
Well, listeners, we'll be covering, our other segment. Jackson pinged me to watch High Life. Rob Patterson.
Claire Denis High Life.
And I pinged him to watch another A24 in The Florida Project. So we'll have those reviews out after we go fully in depth on the Joker. Before we get into it, Jackson, when are we seeing Tenet? Listeners are
That's a
asking me,
great
where's my
question.
review? Where is it, Dan? I want to know your thoughts. Why is it a 10 out of 10? When are we watching?
When you haven't even seen it. Well, listeners, from the time of recording, we're maybe 2 weeks removed, at best, from stage 4 restrictions being lifted here in Melbourne, Victoria, way down under in
Is it
Australia.
going to lift in 2 weeks? I'm scared, Jackson. I'm frightened. Can
Fingers
you give me a
crossed.
beacon of hope?
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Please.
Look, if anyone can get us across the border, we'd be so thankful. We're ready to leave tomorrow. The car's already packed. Bags are good to go. Just say the word and we'll be there.
Also, guys, one other thing. We've got a huge announcement next episode. Big announcement for the show. It's all good things. It starts with S, Jackson. We'll talk about that next time you see us. But for now, let's get into our review for Joker.
Murray, one small thing.
Yeah.
When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker? Send in the clowns.
Arthur Fleck is struggling to find his way in Gotham's fractured society. We live in a society. A clown for hire by day, he aspires to be a stand-up comic at night, but finds the joke always seems to be on him. Caught in a cyclical existence between apathy and cruelty, Arthur makes one bad decision that brings about a chain reaction of escalating events. And no, listeners, it's not a 26 parlay on the Boston Celtics with Kevin Garnett. Come on, KG. You can do it. This is how we win, baby. Dan, it's time. Was this your favorite movie of 2019? Take us back to your first experience in the cinema for Todd Phillips' Joker.
When Parasite was just leading the charge for me as the best film of 2019. Incredible Parasite. A film came out of nowhere. A laugh. A violin string.
Out of nowhere.
Okay, it wasn't out of nowhere. Jackson, I was lucky enough to get a early screening of this film back in October. One of the first to watch it in the world. Wow. I'm not gloating. I'm just happy about that.
It's not much of a humble brag.
I mean, honestly, I had to say it. It didn't impact my opinion. Warner Brothers, Anyway. Look, what a film, Jackson. I'm a big DC fan. I'll say it again. Massive Batman fan, massive Joker fan. A lot of you know The Dark Knight is up there in my top films. Probably number one. And I never thought someone could take on Heath Ledger's Joker. An incredible performance that he left his legacy with. And I think Joaquin stuck it to him. Did he beat him? Not in my opinion, but boy, did he put on a good performance. I tell you what, he was worthy of that Oscar. This was a character study. I want to say low budget, but it probably wasn't. I don't know the official budget. I think it was around 40-50 million. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jackson.
Let's correct you right now. Reported anywhere from 55 to 70 million.
Well, you know,
small budget for a comic book adaptation or a superhero movie in 2019 or now 2020.
Correct.
But it's not a low budget movie.
No, it's not a low budget movie. But I think that's because, I don't know if you know, but a lot of those opening shots, they had to CGI a lot of stuff to make it look like Gotham. But anyway. Yeah, I mean, it turned in $1 billion. So that should just tell you something. And of course, it's a comic book movie in 2019, 2020. Yes, it's going to turn in big numbers. But is it? I mean, Justice League had Batman, Superman, had the entire cast, and that only did 650. This was just the Joker, 1 million. It just goes to show this was a great film, and a lot of people went back and rewatched it again. I know I did. I ended up watching this 3 times in the theater, and I just absolutely loved it, mate. I thought it ticked all the boxes. The score was by far the best of last year. Really elevated it, and you can't deny that, Jackson. I go on about score, but this one was phenomenal. And the fact that Hilda, I'm not even going to attempt her last name, we're going to call her Hilda G. She wrote the score before the film had even started shooting, and they played it on the set. I love that concept, and I want to sort of incorporate that into my future short films, because I think that's just a really cool concept. It can set the mood. And it obviously did it. It created one of the most incredible scenes in the bathroom scene. But I mean, this film, I think it's going to go down as one of the best comic book films that we've ever seen. I just think it is. And you can draw comparisons to Taxi Driver. You can say this is a very slim narrative, not much to it. But I reckon if you dig deep here, there's a lot of themes at play. And I definitely think it's good on a rewatch, so that means something. Acting phenomenal, score phenomenal, story brilliant, as a character study fantastic, cinematography. I mean, that's underappreciated as well. The comedy elements, I mean, it can be funny. As it's an R-rated film, it's a grim film, but it can be funny at times as well. And how many iconic scenes from this film? You got the stairs scene, the bathroom scene, the ending scene on top of the car. I mean, we're probably going to spoil the absolute crap out of this, but I think a lot of you have already seen it. So, yeah, I absolutely love the film, but I want to hear what you think, Jackson, because, I'm a big DC fan, and this isn't technically in the DCEU. You don't see the DC logo until right at the end, which is interesting. But they've said multiple times, this isn't a part of Justice League, this is its own standalone thing. I want to know what you thought of the film as a standalone film, let alone a comic book film. Um, upon a first and second watch, what were your thoughts?
Dan, I want to hear what you think of this as a DC adaptation, as a comic book film, as being trapped by DC Comics. Because in the last several minutes, when we've been listening to your glowing review about the film, you're consistently relating back to how this stands within the realm of superheroes and supervillains and the mythos surrounding that. So I want to hear what you think of these themes and your thoughts there. Please lay it on us.
When we're talking outside of the realm of superheroes or in the realm?
Within it, because you were lucky to go more than 30 seconds there without referencing something about comic books, DC, Batman, Gotham, all these iconic imagery, words, names, things we associate now with pop culture. I want to hear your thoughts on those and how it relates to this movie, to this script, to this production by Todd Phillips.
For a start, we don't get comic book movies like this that are R-rated, that have this much violence and menacing villain at the helm. You know, there's usually a hero in the film, but there's no real hero in this. You know, we're following this guy from dot to dot. He takes up 95% of the screen, and it can be slow, it can be methodical, but he just slowly descends into this character of the Joker, and it's just an incredible character study. In terms of comic books, it's just a different approach that we haven't seen. You know, obviously Nolan did a very grim and dark approach with The Dark Knight, which is one of the reasons I liked it. But also, in the same turn, you could say that Batman vs. Superman was taking a darker approach, and that didn't hit. So it doesn't mean it's all going to be success just because of that. In terms of comic books, this film just stands out. I mean, a lot of these Marvel films blend into one movie for me, and this one is its own thing, is its own entity. It stands alone. It doesn't need a sequel. Will it get one? We can talk about that. And it's one of the best portrayals of the character of the Joker that we've ever seen put to a live screen. And we've never gotten this amount of Joker before, you know. Jack Nicholson did a great job. Heath Ledger obviously owned the screen. But none of them got this amount of time to flesh out the character and have him as the main star. I mean, yes, Heath Ledger was the main star of the film, but nowhere near as much screen time if you compare it to Arthur Fleck in this. This is a 2-hour-long movie, and apparently the first edit was heading on 3 hours. So that would have been interesting to see what was cut there. But yeah, I mean, Jared Leto's Joker. Anyway, there's been plenty of adaptations, but this, I've talked to several people, and a lot of people have this at number one over Heath, and that says something. You never hear that, because Heath is the Joker, in my opinion. Besides Mark Hamill's adaptations in games and in animated films, he owns the character there. In terms of a real life adaptation, it's always Heath, but I mean, he put his name in the field. This is a different approach, a different side, and he just owned it. You can't deny it. But yeah, I mean, this, in terms of comic books, it's just taking a fresh approach. It's more grim, the violence, and you know, it's going to stand the test of time, I think.
It's nihilistic. It's hopeful. You're right, Dan. It is different to what we've seen, even when compared to a Zack Snyder film, which you could certainly label as dark, be it Man of Steel or Batman versus Superman, or even something like Watchmen. They still have something nice and something warm, something comfortable to grip onto. Be it a protagonist that we understand, we know, we feel like we can relate to. Whereas Arthur is so detached from reality and the world, the society, there's that word, that he lives in, and we said it in the synopsis, is so fractured. It's on the brink of collapse. You can feel it in many of the frames, many of the scenes throughout the film. It's kind of like you're waiting for this one final straw to break the camel's back, and the whole city is going to turn on its head. God forbid whatever happens. Eventually, yes. Look, we are spoiling a film that nearly everyone in the world has seen, but eventually something big does go down. Dan, again, I've asked you about comic books. You've given a great answer. We've touched on some awesome concepts. Would this film have been successful? Part one of this question. And part two, would it have made such an impact without the word Joker in the title and without these associations? Think to the sequences with Bruce Wayne. Think to the sequences with Thomas Wayne. Think to the final sequence with Thomas and Martha Wayne. Maybe the fourth or fifth time we've seen that now on film. I mean, come on. Do we really need more Martha?
Martha, why did you say that name?
Stop! Please, stop!
Why did you say that name?
It's his mother's name.
Is this the same movie with those elements removed?
It's not. Unfortunately, it would hit nowhere near as harder. What I would have liked to have seen, and this is just me selfishly talking,
That's all this podcast is.
Call it a completely different name and reveal this character of the Joker within it. No marketing, nothing. People are going in blind. They're never going to do this. It's marketing 101. But go in blind and just imagine those DC fans just watching this random movie and you just realizing that this is turning into the Joker. That could have been an incredible revelation to see in the cinema. But then again, I mean, the opening scene, he's putting the makeup on like the Joker, so it's a little bit difficult. But I mean, for some reason, this resonated with me more than any film last year, and it's not just because it's the Joker.
Is it though?
It does play a massive part. I think the film would have worked without the title, without the DC origin story in there. It just wouldn't be this massive cult hit that I believe it is. It's a tough question. It really is, because it's a hypothetical. What do you think?
It's definitely not bringing in $1 billion at the box office.
Definitely not.
We can get that. We can get that out of the way.
No, 100%.
Dan, you said it. This cracked $1 billion last year. One of the biggest and highest grossing pictures of 2019. I said a reported budget anywhere from 55 to 70 million. God only knows what was put into marketing. We've got to think it's more than double that in marketing. This is probably creeping up to the $250 million total cost. It has to.
For sure.
Like, once DC realized what they had in their hands, probably 6 months out or so from when this was going to be released, they must have known that this is going to be a big win for us. Joaquin Phoenix, super powerful performance that we will get into. Let's really put the marketing machine behind this one. Right now, Dan, it's the highest grossing R-rated feature worldwide. R-rated for some of our Australian listeners, that may translate to an MA15+, but over in the US, R-rated adults only picture.
It took over Deadpool, I believe.
Correct. Not only did it take over Deadpool, Dan, it took over Deadpool, the series, Deadpool and Deadpool 2. So the top 5 highest grossing R-rated films, number 1, Joker, last year, coming in at over $1.07 billion at the global box office.
And the only thing that I think can beat that, sorry to cut you off, is Joker 2.
Well, we can speculate on that. Very, very true. Number 2 through 5. Here we go. So number 2 was Deadpool 2, about 780 million.
Oh, number 2. Yeah.
Yep. Number 3, the first Deadpool movie, about 750 million. Number 4, The Matrix Reloaded, which held the honor of the highest grossing R-rated film, pulling in about 740, 750 million. And finally, number 5 coming in just over 700 million at the worldwide box office. It Chapter 1. So many of these films we've only seen in the last couple of years, and of that top 5, 3 of them are dark, subversive superhero films. There is something trendy. Had we seen this movie 5 years ago, would it have hit as well? Well, probably not with some of its political and social and counterculture context, but it was the right time for this picture to come out.
Do you think it gets the glory reviews that it does, the big reviews, without that Joker title?
What do you mean, big reviews?
Well, there's a lot of 9s and 10s being thrown out at this film.
There is. I want to park that for a moment, Dan, because there's a whole nother conversation to be had there about the public and the critical reception for this film. Right. I'll admit something. My initial reaction, in fact, you know what? Stuff my initial reaction. This second reaction, by the closing minutes of this 122-minute feature, just over 2 hours, it almost feels as length at times. I got the spectacle. I understood why this was such a big movie for people. When we have some of those closing shots with Joaquin Phoenix Joker, we have the crowd, the writers all around him. Spoilers again, who gives a fuck at the show? Come on, you're all here for it, people. When we have the crowd around him, it was kind of that same feeling as a Nolan movie where it's like, okay, this is an event. Has it been the most enjoyable event? We'll go and we'll get into that. But it was something awesome to see on
There's
screen.
a payoff. You have to admit there's a payoff there. Because you actually feel for him. That's one thing I think they did quite well. You feel for Arthur Fleck throughout this, I believe.
Correct.
You actually feel sorry
you
for him.
have to. Yeah, you have to. We're seeing this world through his eyes, through his perspective. It is a smart enough script for delivering that material and the scenarios and the poor decisions that he makes, crafted very, very well so that we do feel for him. But when we're feeling for such a dangerous and such a lunatic character, forget about anything to do with the Batman mythology there, when it's purely just someone who's riddled by mental illness and stuck in this awful public health system with no one to look out for him when he clearly needs the support. Come on, that's really tough. That's really sad. This is a very uncomfortable watch. I honestly cannot believe that this pulled in over $1 billion at the box office. I've said it before, Dan. In fact, I said it in the last episode. I love getting depraved when I'm watching my movies. But how gross and how comfortable this is from start to finish, how bizarre.
Do you think we would feel the empathy we do for the character if we didn't know it was Joker?
Yes.
You still think we would either way, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't think off the top of my head, but we have got a wealth of other movies out there exploring mental illness with a very unreliable narrator. Here's one I've just thought of relating back to our mini-sode on Unhinged. Think of A Beautiful Mind. Ron Howard directed, I should say, and Russell Crowe. A paranoid schizophrenic, when you really feel for his situation, such a talented individual.
Yeah.
Here, it's just like a cringe-filled experience. And it's almost cathartic by the end, just how much we've felt for this guy, that it's like, geez, we thought we've got it tough, especially here in isolation and lockdown at the moment. God, it could be a heck of a lot worse. We could have lived Arthur Fleck's life. What a terrible existence. The idea that that's what makes a supervillain, I don't know. That's bad. That's dangerous. Because there are people out there who've probably gone through this.
You have to admit, though, that final scene, I mean, I nearly got out of my chair, just being a DC fan.
Here we go.
I nearly got out of my chair and just started clapping. That was incredible. The music's going. There's people everywhere. That is the Joker personified there. Mm-hmm. You can't admit that you would want to see what happens next.
Okay. First watch? No. First watch? You know what?
Really?
I couldn't really care for it that much. I felt like it was...
Why?
I felt like it was just reaching for something it hadn't quite gripped. But here on my second watch, I did feel it a little bit more. I thought,
what was the difference
wow,
there?
You know what? I can see why this was so big. What was different, you ask? I guess I had a deeper appreciation the second time around, knowing that I was able to kind of enjoy these elements so much without going in with preconceived notions of, I'm not going to enjoy this. This is the movie that everyone claims to love. Where's my A24 logo on the pre-roll?
At least you admit it. No, yeah. I popped off throughout this film. To me, I don't know if I've said this on this podcast, but I always say it. A good movie.
You've said everything on this podcast in the 40, 50 hours we've already recorded. Come on, buddy. 30 episodes in. What do these people not know about you?
A great movie only needs 3 great moments.
What? You have not said that. Come on.
Okay, but that's I'm saying that now. It only needs 3 great moments to make a great movie. When you think
that's
about
bold,
it,
you're going to highlight them right here on the We Watch This Movie podcast. This will definitely be
this one has about
video
7.
Clip. Give us your 3. Well, give us your 3 for any film then. Come on.
Look, for this one, the bathroom scene for me, transformative, where he is slowly dancing. There's something just incredible about that scene. I don't know what it is. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I guess he's slowly becoming that Joker. That would be number 1 for me, with that score belting. I mean, number 2, the stair scene. I mean, that's iconic when he's dancing down that. Honestly, it's
I didn't
only
care
been
for
a
it the
year.
first time around, and I didn't care that much now. Really?
Do you know how many people are visiting that staircase now? It's become a tourist attraction after 1 year, Jackson.
Well, I hope
And
they didn't
people
murder
are-
any of their colleagues in the apartment nearby.
People people are going to come back to that every single day for the rest of everyone's life, and that to me signifies that that's an iconic scene. That's when I know that that's hit another level. Do you disagree? If there's people going there every single day packing this place out, is that not make it an iconic scene?
Did you ask if I disagree?
I did.
I disagree, Gary.
No, look, in all seriousness, I've said it, this movie is a spectacle. It does have some of these big, big moments, but it still doesn't mean at times it's not troubling and tough to watch. And do we have to be put through the ringer so hard to go through this character's mind? And when we get to the other side, when we get to fuck it, who cares about spoilers? When we get to the end, when we find out that
We are
now
exhausted.
We're Arthur's committed, it's like, was that worth it? Was it super highly entertaining, or do we just get some real pop movie moments similar to something like Inception, where it's like, I'm going to remember this forever and it's going to get memed to death, but does that make a really compelling movie? I don't know. The narrative's compelling, I'll pay you that.
You could have probably trimmed about 5 or 10 minutes worth. Might have left us a little bit less exhausted, because I remember first watching it after an hour.
Daisy Beats' whole subplot, you know, that's all resolved by the 60-minute mark. Like, bang on, we've still got an hour left to go, and that's done.
You didn't like that part?
I'm not going to say I didn't like it. I feel like it was foreshadowed probably too much, and even on the first watch, I could see where that was going.
You're talking about Sophie?
Yeah. I still thought that was clever, but here on the second watch, I noticed, you know, halfway in, it's done. Did we really need it at all?
Yeah, I can understand that. But for me, it pulls, like, one scene that stands out. I don't know how long it takes us to get here, but when he's on the train and those guys are bullying him.
Oh, goodness.
I love that scene. I really do. And he just turns and just gets the gun out, and they're just terrified. And he ends up shooting them both. The cinematography there, the menacing turn, incredible. And then we go into the bathroom scene after that. That's when it starts really kicking off for me. The Sophie, I didn't predict that it was all, for some reason, first watch, I didn't predict it. I didn't find it predictable that she wasn't real, or this was all in his mind. We don't know exactly what happens to her. We're guessing he kills her.
Well, are we? I'm figuring that she just so happened to be someone that he decided to populate his own world with when he, you know, the only real interaction he ever really had was walking into her apartment when he was just about broken, and he sits there and murmurs out that he's had a bad day.
Well, it's funny. My theory is the whole thing's just in his mind anyway. But
yes, I'm glad you're on board. We hadn't got here. I mean, half an hour into the pod, it was about bloody time someone addressed the elephant in the room. But I'm right there with you. I don't think that guy ever got out of the mental hospital, Arkham State, I should say.
I want to believe he did, because it was so epic the way it all panned out. But just, if you look at the signs, I mean, there was one theory going around where every time we saw the clock, it was the same time.
Oh, here we go.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that theory?
Is this in your top 10 hidden details in Joker?
But Todd Phillips came out and said it was just by coincidence, which, you reckon?
This is a very slick Hollywood film. In fact, one of my biggest gripes with this is how slick it is.
It's
and
too slick. I don't believe him for a second. Come on. Nah. He's put that there intentionally. Going back, that scene, and then probably my third scene was the ending scene. But there's, like, what about the whole scene with Murray and...
Yeah, I mean,
you can't
Franklin,
say you weren't entertained there.
You
cannot.
Absolutely not. My notes here read for the Murray Franklin sequence. We've got here, okay, the entire Murray Franklin sequence is cause for an Oscar nod. Straight up. For me, that was the most powerful part in the entire film, was that 5 or so minutes with Joaquin Phoenix in full regalia, full makeup there on the show, and he absolutely owns the atmosphere, owns the audience. And I'm not talking about the actor. I'm talking about the character of Arthur Fleck. You feel like that by him putting on that paint, putting on that costume, that he truly becomes himself, even just for one pivotal moment in his life and everyone else's. Pretty insane.
I know a scene that's going to stand out for you as a favorite as well. It's when Arthur is with Gary and that whole
goodness
sequence.
me, and Randall.
You must have loved that.
Yeah,
That's a scene just made straight for you.
I love a bit of the old 70s classic ultra violence. We've got Randall taking the scissors to the neck. He drops right to the ground, and
You didn't know what he was going to do. He was unhinged. That's what I loved about
Russell Crowe.
he was just, you just didn't know what he was going to do. And at that point, for them to achieve that, you know that they've hit the nail on their head, I think.
And you know what? The nervous laugh in the cinema. I saw this with a packed house around that Halloween time, as Gary couldn't jump up and couldn't unlock the door.
Oh, I thought he was done.
Absolutely, we all thought he was done, and it was this huge like groan that came out from the audience. Like everyone's like, "Oh no, not Gary! Not someone else is going to get it. We can't see another ultra-violent murder." Arthur opens the door and then closes it on him. That for me was a pretty big moment. I really enjoyed that.
And that's what I'm saying. There's about 10 of these moments throughout the film, and like I said, you only need 3 to get me over the line as a great film. So the fact that you got this many. Come on, look, don't get me wrong, it's not a perfect film.
No, it's very derivative, and we're going to go into that.
It's definitely not a perfect film by any means. I mean, we can go into the reasons here now if you want to. One thing I would say is probably the pacing is a little off at times because it does feel like a slog. But then again, is that the point? We always say this. Is that the point? Probably, but that doesn't mean it's good or bad. That was probably one thing for me.
You say the pacing is off here at times. Where did you feel like this was a bit of a slog to get through? Because you've only had glowing things to say about the film.
Probably midway through. I mean, we've seen a lot of this guy, and we're coming back to him with his mother, and some of those scenes there. Maybe when he goes to the mental institution as well, but then again, we get some revelations there about his backstory that are worth knowing. So
goodness me, revelations is putting it lightly. I did not remember the reveal he has at the mental hospital, and I did not remember him finding out that he'd been not only abused, or potentially abused by his mother, but absolutely abused by his mother's boyfriends. Big trigger warning here, people. And he was found malnourished and chained up to a radiator as a child. And then we have that flashback shot with his mother saying, you know, he's always been such a happy boy.
Right.
And he's adopted. Just to really throw some fuel on the fire. Like, this poor guy goes through absolute hell in the space of a couple days, a couple weeks. Not to mention, everyone in this film is so deplorable and are acting from such dark places. Is this even happening in the real world, in Gotham City, within this movie or Arthur's mind? Make your own theory. It is still entertaining.
And even the revelation, well, I don't know if it's a revelation, but the fact that his laugh, you know, we're always said that it's a disease, but in my mind, it's not a disease. It's just his sense of humor is effed up. And there's a lot of nods to that as well throughout the film. I know that there was a YouTube clip of a pathological laugher, like an actual someone with this condition, and he studied that.
Joaquin Phoenix did.
Yeah, and if you go back and watch this YouTube clip, it's got millions of views now because everyone's relating it to the Joker.
Of course.
You look and you see, wow, this is actually really similar to his performance. So he definitely studied that. And he's even said that. But going back to another scene, switching and swerving here.
Oh, we're tossing and turning more than this guy does, as he's just trying to find something to latch on to the last of his sanity. How would live this long in his life without losing the plot earlier? God only knows.
What about the Alfred and Bruce Wayne scene?
All right, big problem. Big problem.
Big problem.
Big problem. Why is this here? Why is Martha Wayne and Thomas Wayne being brutally murdered again for the 4th or 5th time? I've already said it. We're going to say it again. Why does it need to be here? I did like Bruce Wayne coming down a pole on the playground. You know,
Yeah.
bit of Adam West, Batman 1960s action. I'll
Yep.
pay that. That's a good nod. But why do we have to make Alfred, the butler, out to be another dick? It's just very, very sad. And do we need Arthur being creepy, putting his hand inside a child's mouth? I mean, we've already got so much explicit content here at the podcast. We don't need to get taken off the airwaves.
I love that whole scene. Loved it.
Of
Another
course
great
we
nod.
do.
Another
It's
great
like-
nod.
Is
Just
it though?
incredible.
It is such a groan. I just didn't.
What do
need
you
this
mean?
stuff. It's so
called fan
cringeworthy.
service. We needed some of it.
Why do we need fan service?
It's a movie called Joker. You've got to give us some fan service. There wasn't that much.
The guy's
to
in
latch
clown
onto.
makeup for the entire film.
And even I absolutely popped when we had the Wayne family death scene.
You what?
from-
You popped?
Popped. That's a wrestling term. I went off. I was happy because we've seen that scene so many times. I just didn't expect it here for whatever reason, and they tied it in so well. I just loved it, and the angle, cinematography, it worked beautifully. And not only that, we got 2 Walking Dead stars playing the 2 roles, which is hilarious. Negan and Lauren from The Walking Dead.
Oh.
Which I couldn't believe, but apparently
By the
he might
way-
be in another one. But anyway,
Brett Cullen playing Alec Baldwin, playing Thomas Wayne. Not a bad little performance.
Playing
Would
Alec.
have liked to have seen Alec Baldwin in this. From what I've found, he dropped out about 2 days after being cast. When instead of shooting this, he may have shot Edward Norton's movie Motherless Brooklyn. But hey, more power to him. Get yourself as far away from the DC films as possible.
You know, Leo was attached to play Arthur Fleck at one point.
Everyone has been attached to this Joker standalone project since it feels like the beginning of comic books. All right, I'm totally not surprised.
One thing that I learned was that apparently the way Robert Downey,
Robert
De
Downey,
Niro-
bit of Iron Man action. If you want to talk
Robert-
about comic books, mate, was that 2019 highest grossing movie, not just of the year but ever? I think it was.
Robert Downey, no,
You've done it again.
Robert De Niro.
You're hitting that for sure.
Robert De Niro, apparently the way he likes to do table reads didn't quite meld with Joaquin Phoenix's way of doing things.
What was he? Was he actually eating throughout the day?
Well, apparently Joaquin Phoenix mumbled his way through it and wasn't giving him the respect, and they came to blue.
Bit of Willem Dafoe and Rob Pat action. Do they start wrestling naked on the ground? One man might have been gaslighting another.
No, not that far. They were very professional, but then he ended up going on to say something like, Robert's actually my favorite actor. So it was weird, but it makes total sense because in reality, Joaquin Phoenix is a bit of a Fruit Loop. We've got to be honest here. In my opinion, I think...
Oh, yeah.
He didn't have to stretch that far for this character. I'll go on record
this
to
guy's
say
had
that.
some of the weirdest roles, and not just the last couple years, but the last 20, 30 years. I mean, what was the movie where it was like a mockumentary of him as a rapper? Is it I'm Not There?
Hey, I got to give him some credit. It's the movie I watched the other day with him and our man Nick Cage. He was great in that. Definitely
8mm.
weird. Definitely weird. He's obviously been in a classic Walk the Line, probably my favorite of his, Gladiator, Her. But besides those classics, you go back to the last, let's say, 5 years, he hasn't done anything that's appealed to me. I watched, what was the movie? You Were Never Really Here. I heard great things. I couldn't even get through it. I was bored to tears. So this was a good resurgence for me anyway, for him. I'm interested to see what he does next now.
I don't know about resurgence, Dan. I think this definitely cemented this guy's status as a big name Hollywood actor. Still for years to come, if he chooses to go down that route, because
I guess so.
He's pardon the pun, walked the line on a few different roles.
Well,
I mean, he's been in a few PTA films like The Master, Inherent Vice, and Dan, I'm glad that you brought up one of his some of his Oscar noms, because leading up to his first Oscar win here, earlier at our 2020 90-second ceremony, it was his 4th overall nomination after Gladiator, Walk the Line, and The Master. Mr. Joaquin Phoenix, in the lead-up, won these awards, all right? The BAFTAs Best Actor, the Golden Globe, the SAG. He even won the tribute Actor Award at TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, which we've seen a couple movies from that festival show up in this podcast. Dan, before we move on, I want to give you 2 more quick fire acts about Joaquin Phoenix. So here goes. Did you know both him and his tragically deceased brother River hold the distinction of being the only pair of brothers to both be nominated for Academy Awards? Plus, one more. You mentioned this actor just before, Robert De Niro. He and Marlon Brando, the only other pair of actors to have won an Academy Award for playing the same character in different films, just like Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger as the Joker. Although, whether they're the same character, that's a bit up for debate.
I want to know something from you.
Here we go.
I personally think that Joaquin Phoenix, his stardom and his, the legacy you're talking about.
Yep.
I get it, it's cemented. He's won an Oscar. He's won he's
sure.
won award. He'll go down in history, right? But in terms of a box office draw, right? I reckon it's going to come down to his next film. How accessible that film is, how well that film does, is going to propel him for those next few years. It can't just be a one-hit wonder in the Joker. If he does a Joker 2, of course, that's a different story. But his next film has got to be a hit for him to continue on with that run. If it isn't, if it's some weird film that, like a lot of his other indie films that he does, he's not going to have that pull. He'll go down the route of a Matthew McConaughey, where he had an incredible 2013, where he was in Interstellar, he was in Dallas Buyers Club, around that time anyway, 2013, 2014. And then he started to slowly fall off. He started to do less and less, and now he's doing freaking The Beach Bum, where he's become a freaking literal bum. I don't know what he's doing. He's so talented, that guy. Will he go down that route? I think it's entirely possible.
Given what history will tell us, Joaquin Phoenix is probably going to continue to star in whatever the fuck he wants. And you know what, mate?
Yeah.
Sign him up. Sign him up. Whoa, sign him up. Sign me up.
He doesn't seem to be the guy that chases the money, which is always good. He's chasing the craftsmanship of it all. So that's great to see. Like, the guy obviously loves acting and he's great at it. So, whatever he does, he's probably going to follow his passion. I don't know if he would he sign on for a Joker 2, you reckon?
Who knows? I mean, here for Joker, Joaquin Phoenix, when he signed on quite early in the piece, he kind of promised that this would be he'd only sign on if it were kind of a low budget, gritty character study drama. And while we do get that here with a budget of 55 or 70 million and being all about a superhero mythology, it's a little bit different from what he's seen in the past. I'm glad you mentioned another performance of his that I felt was pretty underrated. Her. I mean, what a movie. We've got to go back and look at that sometime.
Scarlett Johansson. Yeah. In terms of him with the Oscars, I had him winning everything. He was like he was $1.02. I mean, he was
betting people out there.
He was winning. There was no doubt in my mind that he was winning, and I 100% knew that Hilda was winning for that score. Any other year...
Who was winning for what score?
The soundtrack, Hilda, for Joker.
Hilda
G.
Hilda G. Come on, Dan Allen Movies. Give us another one of your classic...
Oh, you want it?
Superb pronunciations...
You want me to give it?
Composer's name. What a talented Icelandic violinist she is. Please, give it a hot country go.
Hilda.
Oh, that wasn't too bad. Hilda Gonatadir.
Yeah, I knew she was winning because that score was incredible. There's nothing like it. I've replayed it. I've done my own little dances around the house.
But please keep them to yourself. I don't want to know what yourself and Shani get up to after watching Joker. That would be a very interesting house to be a part of.
Any other year, 1917, Thomas Newman would have won. That was an incredible score for 1917, which I'm sure we'll cover that film. You're not a film score snob like me, so don't even put your name in there.
I am. We've covered it before. I love a good needle drop. This movie just doesn't have them.
Nah, I'm sorry, you're not. You're not. You could not name me 5 that have won in the last 10 years soundtracks. 5
that have won in the last 10 years? That's a bit unfair.
I could name all 10, but we're not going to do that now because I'll fail under the pressure. Give us your Joker laugh.
You're just gonna loop this forever.
God, well, we won't have any listeners after it.
We don't already.
What did you think of the soundtrack in this? Did it transport you?
Yeah, I felt like we were inside Arthur's mind.
Finally.
So I'll enjoy that. Finally, okay.
We got it.
Well, clearly someone else enjoyed it because, this movie, 11 Academy Award nominations and 2 wins.
11?
You've already let the cat out of the bag.
Woo.
It won for Best Actor and Best Original Score. But Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original, or Best Adapted Screenplay, I should say. That's a little bit rich. I mean,
were you surprised by that?
I was surprised by Todd Phillips getting a nod for Best Director.
I was,
look at this guy's filmography. Okay, let's have a look. War Dogs, which,
I liked.
I don't think anyone saw.
No, I liked it. I'll go on record. I recommend it.
Okay, cool. Could you recommend this? Due Date. Robert Downey Jr., Zach Galifianakis.
Definitely not.
Could you recommend this? John Heder and Billy Bob Thornton. School for Scoundrels, a remake.
Nope.
Could you recommend this? Starsky and Hutch, Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson.
Oh, it's been a while, but probably not. Those two, yeah. No.
Okay. You know what? I probably could. We get some Vince Vaughn action in there, those 3 together.
That's because you are Vince Vaughn in an alternate universe, so.
Oh, you're so money, baby. You don't even know it. All right. Rapid fire.
Hangover.
Road trip. Hangover, yes. Road trip?
Nah.
Come Back at Me?
You? Hangover?
Yes.
Did he do all 3 hangovers?
He wrote and directed all 3, although the third one, which is practically a heist film, I don't know what happened. And you know what? I haven't seen the second one. I don't plan on watching it, and the third one is pretty rough.
You tell me, do you enjoy Hangover?
Yes.
As a series? Okay.
Oh, I enjoyed the first film.
When you say enjoy, 7 out of 10?
My God, the first Hangover film is easily like an 8 or a 9.
Okay.
That thing is hilarious. When that dropped, I watched that with a packed house. Couldn't get a seat anywhere to sit on the floor. Phenomenal.
See, I still like the second and third. I mean, I wouldn't say they're not 8s and 9s. I still don't mind them just because of the characters, and even though the story's not there, it's just the characters and the comedy from Zach Galifianakis to King. What's his name? King Jung?
Yeah, King Jun, Ed Helms, Bradley Cooper.
I love Ed Helms.
Pretty decent performances there.
Bradley, all 3 of those guys I love. So besides Due Dates, I like Zach.
Todd Phillips also wrote, directed Old School, which has a great Will Ferrell performance. Luke Wilson's pretty game in that.
He's done more than I thought.
He has, and for this guy to have done so many different comedies, and he's acknowledged it. What a bizarre career he's had to then go on and give us this picture. Crazy. I mean,
hey, he's a joker.
But he seems. Look, we haven't really addressed it just yet. Yep. He definitely fancies himself a Scorsese fan. He's far from the only director out there, because maybe someone else you heard of at this year's awards ceremony, maybe Mr. Bong Joon-ho, thanking Martin Scorsese. I think you could. I
rewatched that the other day.
Everyone loves him.
His acceptance speech, Bong Joon, where he's thanking Scorsese, and Scorsese's like, and he stands up. Everyone's clapping.
Whole crowd gives him the.
That's brilliant. That's one of the best moments.
Applause. That is.
That. Look, I didn't think Todd deserved the nomination. As much as I love this film, and I'll go and say it's my favorite of last year, I don't think the directing was the reason why the film was so good, in my opinion. Although, I probably should give him some credit. This is by far his best film he's ever done. I think you can safely say that.
I don't.
You don't think so?
No, but Hangover easily.
I think this beats Hangover. I really want to see him, what he can do next, and not Joker 2. Obviously, I want to see that. But going on to something different, maybe another serious one, not a comedy.
Yep.
What he can do. I know Bradley Cooper was heavily involved in this, more than you'd think, the production of this film. I want to see Bradley Cooper get around and do some more directing after A Star Is Born. I think he was great, and he's done a lot of producing over the last few years. So, and I know, the reason I bring him up, I know he was heavily involved in the editing process of this. I know he was at the editing deck of this. That you wouldn't believe that. A lot of producing. So he's another one I think you could watch out for. He could even direct the sequel. You just never know, because him and Todd are such a closely
Dan,
pack.
We're betting around the bush. You've mentioned it several times. What do you want from Joker 2?
It's a tough one. I don't know if I want a sequel, but I know I do. I just know that there's a tendency with sequels to not live up. Besides The Dark Knight, seriously, I can't name another comic book movie that's lived up on the second iteration. Can you? I'm trying to think. Maybe Captain America, but that's a different movie. I guess the closest would be Captain America, but I can't think of another superhero movie that's gone on and been better on the second iteration. So, but then again,
I can think of action movies that have certainly done it. I mean, point to like any Cameron's work, like Aliens or Terminator 2, when you can argue that we get these hero archetypes even better explored in that than you would in a superhero film.
Where would you go from here? Would you show him being the villain and actually doing the villainous stuff? Is that where you take it? Because then it becomes really comic booky.
Yeah, it is. And it doesn't really fit the world that they're going for. I remember an immediate thought I had, and I can't believe we're going all the way back to 40 minutes earlier in the pod, but hey, we're having our own cyclical escalating events going on here. Is Arthur Fleck capable of some crazy criminal masterminded plan? He's not at all. Unfortunately, the guy isn't all that bright.
No.
While we're not going to look to, something like dyslexia and not being able to spell and being able to articulate his thoughts, we're not going to look to that as signs of someone that they're not capable of doing some crazy criminal activity. I'm more than certain they are. But he doesn't seem like someone that could put together a crazy Heath Ledger Joker-esque plan or even a supervillain plan. It's just not going to happen.
Agreed. So
I feel like that's part of the movie's charm, is that it doesn't quite go for that, and instead it just celebrates what this person could be as a symbol. It's funny. I do like one aspect that I noticed more on the second time around was that how much this mirrors the Batman mythology. Okay, while I said I didn't like some of the trappings, and I'm not the only one, the fact that we see a lot of these clown masks and they're worn by people like they might celebrate pop culture or celebrate superheroes. And not only do we get headlines in the media like Kill the Rich, but we get headlines like vigilante. Dan, what does the word vigilante remind you of?
The vigilante. When you say vigilante, I always think of the TV series Arrow. I know this is not where you want me to go.
Oh, goodness me. That's not where I want you to go at all. Wrong character, buddy.
I'm sorry.
Stephen Amell, give him props, but he's no George Clooney, you might say.
Did you ever watch it?
I actually haven't seen one episode of Arrow. Am I missing much?
I love the first 3 seasons, and then it just fell off a cliff. Like, it fell off a cliff.
So it's every TV show ever.
Hey, yeah. Hey,
okay.
No, Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. No,
Yeah, come on.
100%. Let's go back here. So I do like that we kind of, I don't know if send up or satirize or parody is the right word for it, but it does explore some of those darker concepts of taking a symbol and what happens when the public, who are already on the brink of social and political unrest, take that and twist it. And the fact that we have a character, our protagonist, whether he's the antagonist, he's viewed negative, positively, whatever, the fact that he doesn't care for it, that all he cares about is his own ego and narcissism, and that's something that's sadly passed down from his mother, his family, his experiences. I quite enjoy that. Doesn't make for the most entertaining film, and how did this bring in $1 billion? Can't really answer that, but it's something interesting to consider.
It's an iconic film. I know you don't want to say it, because iconic...
No, I've said it. I've said this movie, the second time I'm finishing, we've got Joker being lifted up by the crowd after we have that awesome shot of the car that truck ram raiding into the police car where Arthur Fleck is cuffed up in the back of. And we also got the iconic throwback to Heath Ledger's Joker. We've got Arthur Fleck sitting against the window in the police squad car, and we have the
Oh,
The
what a
bokeh
shot.
lights behind him, all out of
That was
focus.
great.
You know, obvious nod, but why not do it? You might as well be derivative, homage, whatever the word.
You
Then we have,
got to homage Nolan. Come on.
yeah, of course. And then we get Arthur Fleck getting dragged out of the car. I sat there on the second watch thinking, okay, yeah, this is a spectacle.
I'm glad to hear that, Jackson. I am glad to hear that you enjoyed it. I was worried there for a second, but now you've really turned a leaf. I think the film, besides Joaquin Phoenix, is phenomenal performance.
Physical
Performance.
unlike anything else we had that year. While I did enjoy Leo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, after watching this, you know what? It probably was Best Actor worthy. Let's be
That's
honest
what I was about to say. He had to win it. I don't think you can give it to anyone else, and it's also the story behind it where he hadn't got one before. I know they love to give it to movies.
Come off it though. Just talk about the movie, the performance, the production. That's what it's about.
I know, but there's always a narrative behind it. Like, I had this debate the other day. Parasite, you know, would that have won if that was an American film?
Yeah.
I don't want to go political here and go way off topic, but I believe if that was an American film with an American cast, it wouldn't have won. And that's not taking anything away. I just think they wouldn't have been able to do what Bong Joon did in that film. But anyway, going off on a tangent. Is there anything else to say about this film, Jack? I mean, what did you think about the ending? What was your interpretation?
We've said it. I'd like to believe and at least entertain the thought that what had happened was just the case of an unreliable narrator. He was just spinning it inside his own mind, and that's how Arthur gets through each day. He believes that every other character, everyone else in his world is out there to beat him down because unfortunately he'd lived such a tragic and sad existence as a child that's what he was made to believe. His mother, who was she diagnosed, I believe, as maybe some kind of someone living in psychosis, a schizophrenic. She also had a narcissistic complex.
Underrated performance by that. I forgot the name of the actress.
Oh, yeah, right. That was Frances Conroy. And, you know, at one time, that was actually, I think it might have been offered to her. Maybe she even was attached. Frances McDormand almost played Joaquin Phoenix's mother, which would have been, that would have been another hot casting. But Frances Conroy, she does some good work.
I think the casting worked out perfectly. Everyone here just suited the roles. But I guess, look, I will say probably another negative. Robert De Niro, for me, at this point in his career, I don't see him as anything else but like... I see him as Robert De Niro. I don't see him as the characters at this
I know
point.
what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
So iconic. Yeah.
Yeah. So he might have taken it out a little bit. I probably would have liked someone else there. I just have to be honest.
You understood why he was there, though, right?
Yeah, I did. There's a nod there, obviously, but
yeah, which you have to give a nod to Martin Scorsese's The King of Comedy. I don't know if you've watched that, but I remember watching it several years ago after hearing it was one of Scorsese's most underrated and polarizing films when it came out. I actually believe that's a better movie than this, and Robert De Niro as Rupert Pumpkin is from that movie is a huge snob. Huge snob, we should say, at the Academy Awards. So I'm glad that he was here. Again, homage, derivative, call it what you want, but I thought it was a cool bit of casting, and it was good to see one, even if it was just one voice of reason in this whole 2-hour runtime.
Where do you rank this film from last year? Is it in your top 5?
No.
Top 10?
Yes.
Okay. So
I've still got a lot of 2019 to cover.
Hey,
all right, let's make that known.
So technically, it is in your top pictures. You said before Oscars top picture. Well, they give it out to 10, and you've just said it. You'd put it in your 10 at this stage. So
I would, but I've still got a lot of 2019 to cover.
I was just surprised that they gave a comic book film the light of day. I know they did it with Black Panther. Sadly Chadwick passed away, which we haven't mentioned. He was an incredible actor. We might have to go back and do Black Panther because I love that film.
Yes,
there's a couple of other
Chadwick Boseman.
There's a couple of other films that he did that I haven't seen that I've heard great things about as well. So, Yeah, that's really unfortunate. But they gave it to Black Panther. They gave a few nods to that back in 2018, 2019. And now with the Joker. So maybe it's just a new direction they're taking. But I was surprised that they gave it 11. I really genuinely was shocked. But yeah, you said it was in your top 10. Well, you know where I've got it. Number 1.
Wow.
Cat's out of the bag, yeah. Number 1
Number
film
1 of the year. That's
of the
huge.
year. Yeah, it is. 2019. And I contemplated it back and forth. But just I was so entertained, Jackson. So many rewatchable scenes. The fact that I've seen this 4 or 5 times and it gets better with each viewing, you have to give it some credit. Like, I'll say it like this. I said it before. It only needs 3 great moments to be a great film, in my opinion. But when you think about it, think of a movie that has a twist in it, and you think about everything that leads up to it. Like an I See You, which I gave a 7 out of 10. That technically only had 1 great moment, that turn there. But that was enough. And if you've got 3, you see what I'm saying? If there was 3 great moments in that, well, you're looking at a great film. I really think I'm onto a theory here. Anyway.
Well, you are, Dan, because you could almost consider that this is really just the 3 acts in your general narrative. And what are your turns? You know, we've got what's our first, second act turn, what's the second to third, and how do we wrap this all up? But not every movie has to finish so bombastically like this does. Okay, not all films are created equally. Consider something like Parasite from last year. You've mentioned a couple times now. It has several endings that just, we get one punch after another, and it's even a little bit of a downer, but it suits what comes before. Go on.
I just think that for a movie these days, we don't get a lot of payoffs, and the fact that this had such a good payoff for me personally elevated that score for me to the next level as well. Because a lot of the times these days, you walk out of the cinema and the actual ending is a little flat, or they didn't quite reach the heights you were hoping for, or it was left ambiguous, whatever it is. But this one, you get that spectacle. That's what I was hoping they'd get to. That's what I was praying for when I went into the cinema to see this movie. I wanted him to become the Joker, to embody that character. He was in the outfit, he was dancing, he was there. That's what I wanted, and I got it. So I can't... That's why I'm going to give it the marks I'm about to give it. So, I mean, have you got anything left to say, Jackson, before we head into our ratings? Oh,
Dan,
we've got a segment.
We have a segment. Yes, listeners, we have a segment. I've got some thoughts, which I'm going to extrapolate on when we go into our final rating. As well, I've said this is one of my top 10 of 2019. You may be surprised to hear what it does end up with. Before we go into that, Dan, hit the music. You know what it's time for.
Jackson's ratings. IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, audience score, and Letterboxd.
I know you've been looking forward to this iteration, especially after episode 29, The Lighthouse, had you balking at some of the response to that. Dan,
this better be better. This better be better than The Lighthouse, baby. Come on. Hit me up, Jackson.
Movie database. What did they think of Todd Phillips' Joker from 2019, debuting in October? Dan, before we go into that, I just want a hot dog for another minute here. Venice International Film Festival. This premiered at. This won the Golden Lion, the most prestigious prize of the festival.
Yeah.
Todd Phillips, the 6th ever
See you later,
American
Lighthouse.
filmmaker.
Off you go. Go back to your lighthouse. You couldn't take down the Joker. Hey, Jackson, can you introduce me?
Yeah.
Can you introduce me as Joker?
This beat out a few films for the Golden Lion last year. Steven Soderbergh's The Laundromat, Shannon Murphy's Baby Teeth, and Shannon Murphy's Baby Teeth, an Australian production we haven't spoken about. I'd love to cover that one here on the podcast. And the festival's runner-up, Roman Polanski's An Offer and a Spy. An Officer and a Spy.
So the competition wasn't that good, is what you're telling me there.
Oh,
sorry.
There were some big films that came out in 2019.
I don't think anyone listening...
that we haven't mentioned before.
Everyone listening, no one knows any of those films except for you and me.
No one knows the Golden Lion, the award that debuted back at 1946. Come on, people. Venice Film Festival, Cannes, TIFF. Give me some snobby mentions. Okay, here we go. Internet Movie Database. Right back to it. Just a quick tangent time there. 8.5 out of 10.
Here we go. Keep him running.
Coincidentally,
Keep him running.
over 850,000 user ratings. Dan, tell me where this ranks.
Top 50, come on.
On the top 50 of all time. Throw it out there.
27.
58.
Ooh, not bad. I'm happy with that.
Most reviewed, what number?
Most reviewed? Ooh,
on IMDb?
Top 20.
55. Almost on par, you know, just like Batman and the Joker.
Hey, after a year, I mean, you give it a couple more years, it's up there.
True, very true. All right, let's keep things moving. Rotten Tomatoes, you'll be happy to hear this. The tomato meter. Condensed. Can't think of the word. We'll keep things moving.
Certified?
No,
Certified
not
fresh?
certified fresh.
What?
570 critic reviews. Okay. Here's what the top critics thought of that. The top critics. 56 critic reviews collated for this. 50% on the tomato meter. 50% of critics, top critics,
the
gave this
snobs.
a positive review.
Go out and watch The Lighthouse again, you snobs.
All 570 critic reviews, 68% gave it a positive.
That's a joke. I was about to say I love Rotten Tomatoes, but now... Oh.
You know what, Dan? While it's a 68, average rating of 7.23 out of 10 from all critics, and from top critics, 7.09 out of 10. So that would indicate, you know, at least on my scale, that's a very good movie.
When are Rotten Tomatoes going to actually own up, become an official channel, become an actual credible source, and take the We Watch This podcast in as one of the official critics? Until then, to me, they're not certified themselves. They say certified fresh. Well, you don't even have the biggest movie podcast in Australia, in Slovenia, in Argentina, in Nigeria. Jinx. You know what? You can't say you're this incredible source when you don't have a certified reviewers from here in Australia. But anyway.
There are some pretty bold claims here being made. Okay, we'll keep things moving. Audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. You'll be happy to hear this. 90% of audiences gave this a rating 3.5 out of 5 or bigger from 11 user ratings. Does that seem quite low to you? Have I got that wrong? Wait, hang on. 11 user ratings shy of 138,000 users.
Yeah.
So critics versus audiences, we can see who love the movie a heck of a lot more. You said it earlier, mate. You've seen a lot of 9s, a lot of 10s.
They're too busy in a lighthouse somewhere. Ragdolling with each other.
Yeah,
naked.
we're just watching our A24 movies on repeat, lost somewhere in a Swedish cult. All right, we'll keep things moving.
These critics, they literally gave Captain Marvel a 96. Like, I can't call them credible. I can't. If you've got Joker at 55 and Captain Marvel at a 96, I'm sorry, I can't make you a credible source. So it's just my opinion. Go on.
Another debatably credible source, according to Dan Allen Movies. Don't give him a follow. Don't watch his gaming stuff. Metacritic, 60 critic reviews collated.
Here we go.
59 out of 100.
That's not bad.
You'll like it. A 59 out of 100
for Metacritic. Honestly, that's not too bad for Metacritic, because they never go over 80 unless it's an A24. So yeah, go on.
Very true. Over 6.7 thousand users have voted for a 9 out of 10.
Oh, yeah. See, people will know what they're talking about.
And finally, we all know what's coming next. Letterboxd. It's been liked by almost 240,000 members on Letterboxd. Logged by over 654,000 members. 3.8 out of 5. According to Letterboxd, The Lighthouse is better.
Oh, come on. Are you kidding? Letterboxd, you're letting me down.
Did you like that Jared Leto?
How many, can I ask, what's the most, out of 1 to 10, what was the most, the biggest average? Was it 8 out of 10?
You mean 1 to 5?
Yeah, 1 to 5. Sorry.
Well, if it's a 3.8, then we could say the 4 would be the biggest.
Have you got it open there?
I have not got the statistics open in front of me, unlike someone else here. Rather than just clicking on IMDb and clicking on Letterboxd, I have notes, people.
I'm going to tell you right now. It is.
And
yeah,
these are better
so,
notes.
Oh, okay. Here we go. So number 1 is an 8 out of 10, a 4 out of 5.
Right, because
And
that's where 3.8 comes from.
Yeah, and number 2 highest is a 10. Just remember that.
Okay, well, there's certainly a lot of people who didn't rate it as
Letterboxd
highly.
aren't crazy. They're not crazy.
Listeners, I'd like to let you know that my notes are a little bit more coherent and even funnier than Arthur Fleck's joke book. All right, enough hot dogging
Here
for
we
now.
go.
Enough beating around the bush. Here
You're
we
up
go.
first. You're up first, Jackson.
Final ratings. All right,
on.
listeners, this might take a couple minutes here. So,
Go
look,
through it. Go through your final thoughts. Second viewing. Give me everything.
we haven't quite touched on where this movie sits and how it kind of reflects and may impact society and those who watch it, because it's quite frightening just how much you relate to this tragic figure after spending 2 hours living his life. It's a grisly depiction. His sad existence. We see it through some dour eyes, and his
There
poor
was some
mother.
backlash, wasn't there?
There was his poor mother, Penny Fleck, a bit like Penniless. Look, Dan, let's throw everything else out the window. Let's leave it to this quote I found. A review on Letterboxd, nearly 13,000 likes. If you've never swam in the ocean, then of course, a pool seems deep. That's going to roll in with my 7 out of 10 muddled counterculture messages.
If you've never swam in an ocean. And I bet you that guy that reviewed that gave The Lighthouse a 10 out of 10. What a fucking
No, he should, because you
hypocrite.
don't want to get lost at sea with that film.
What a hypocrite. I'm going to look him up right now. I am live looking this guy up. He's given the film a 2 out of 10, Jackson. You have got to be kidding me. Is he serious? And he has given Joker a 2 out of 10. Okay?
Or a 1 out of 5.
He has given Parasite a full 5 stars, so we'll give him some credit there. I'm looking through. He's given the Knives Out Ex Machina. I'm agreeing with this guy on everything here. Yeah, I mean...
Except for the one that
Hold on, I'm
counts,
looking
and
for
that's
Lighthouse.
this week's movie.
I'm looking for Lighthouse. I can't see it. Okay, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But he's lucky. He's very lucky. Anyway, so it's a 7 out of 10, Jackson. I've
kept mine short and sweet for the sake of brevity.
Jackson.
Our listeners have stuck around. They've got wives and homes to go to. Unlike us and Arthur Fleck, where we have nothing to live for, they certainly do.
You're playing this on the fence, a 7.
Am I? I've told you I enjoyed it. I thought
What
it was
was
entertaining.
missing?
It's a
Why couldn't
spectacle.
it get to the 8?
For me, this shouldn't be a big Hollywood picture. When I want a dark, gritty 70s character drama, a gross character study, just give me that. This is too clean, too slick. It's an argument you can make for all of Todd Phillips' movies, and I feel like that holds it back. Joaquin Phoenix is the 7 out of 10. Really is a 10 out of 10. And then we've got a movie around him that kind of drags that down, because this is the best performance of 2019. Except maybe Rob Pat or Willem Dafoe.
So, according to your ratings, you've given Contagion a 7 out of 10. So you're telling me Joker is in the same level as Contagion?
It sure is. And you know what? I gave Palm Springs a 9 out of 10, and I stick by that rating. So I'm actually putting Palm Springs above Joker. I'm actually putting a movie we discussed off air, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. I gave that around about an 8. I hadn't quite decided or settled, but I technically put that as more entertaining and more fun than this film.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You're not a DC fan. Anyway, from me...
It's all cyclical. It's like a Nolan movie. We just come back to it. DC.
From me, it's going to be a 10 out of 10.
That's where the applause plays.
10 out of 10, baby. Woo!
What a groan. What a groan.
Woo, 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 woo. At the end of the day, what was that quote? Say it to me one more time.
If you've never swam in the ocean, then of course a pool seems deep.
This pool is massive. This pool is huge. There's 1,000. How many reviews? 800,000 people in this pool.
Dan Allen movies. We need to educate you. You need to watch some real character studies because this isn't it.
What would you say is the best character study of all time? Here's a question for you.
Oh, let's go to a recent one I watched because you know me, I like to sit on a fence. How about we talk about a movie that popped up last week? How about we talk about First Reformed?
Because to me,
give me any Paul Schrader film.
Taxi Driver is one of them, and this is very similar. So
yeah, it's basically the same movie.
Well, so why not? Why? Where's the 7 coming from? I want to debate this. I think it's worth more than a 7. I really do. I'm a bit of a hypocrite. I gave Lighthouse a 3, but anyway.
There you go. And the material in this is not the super freshest that it could be. And it's not the freshest take. You say that it's a take we haven't seen before in a superhero film. It's not even a fucking superhero film. Stop talking about DC and superheroes and Marvels and all this bullshit. I get it. It's pop culture. I get it. It means $1 billion at the box office. But just let it be a fucking film.
Well, I would probably say Citizen Kane would be up there. Clockwork Orange. Taxi Driver, Joker, what else? Throw me some others. I'm getting a blank.
Let's look at the King
what about
of Comedy,
The Wrestler?
another
The Wrestler.
Scorsese films. Oh yeah, the Darren Aronofsky picture with Mickey Rourke. Yeah, sure.
That was great. Yeah,
that's deeper. That's more contemplative than this is. That at least has a soul. This movie has no soul because it's just one tragic figure getting beaten down again and again and again. Is it entertaining? Yes, I've said that, but it's not a great film. It's a very good movie.
Dallas Buyers.
It so happens to have a fantastic performance.
Black Swan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Memento. Anyway, we're going on. Look, I give it a 10 out of 10. I mean, I'm a big DC fan, so, that obviously helps, but and a massive Joker fan, so just take that with a grain of salt. I mean, objectively, if you take those things out, it's probably 8 or 9. But
wow, okay,
for me, it's a 10. Well, for me, it's a 10, personally. This is a personal rating. For me, just loved it. And I've got the Blu-ray, 4K Blu-ray, and I'll probably end up watching it every freaking year because I just find it so entertaining. So
I can see that.
At the end of the day, that's all that matters, really, is our personal... Jackson's given it a 7. I can't convince him to go 8. Maybe upon a third rewatch, when we're together, I can bump him up. But for now, that's going to sit at 17 out of 20.
Which means an 8 out of 10 or a 4 out of 5.
Which I'm happy with. I'm happy with that. 4 out of 5. I'll rest gently into that good night. Is that the line? Jesus Christ, I've lost it. Anyway, Jackson, I've been waiting for this moment.
Wait a minute.
The entire
Sam,
episode.
We've forgotten our late night talk show sign off. Please, let me have the floor.
Okay.
Good night. Thanks for listening. And remember, that's life.
Our segment.
The movie challenge. After we
the movie challenge. Yeah, Jackson, I'm calling an audible here.
You're what? You're calling an audible?
I've said this before.
Like you've never done this before on the show.
I've said this before, but I'm serious now. We are never bringing the movie challenge back ever again.
What? You're kidding?
No, we're not.
You cannot be serious.
No, I'm 100% serious. It's gone.
I swear you said this after week 1 or 2.
I don't care. It's gone until episode 50. We'll reevaluate. I've called it here as one half of this podcast. I must have some sort of pull.
Every time. You're like, I'm never doing this again. You've put me through the ringer. Lars von Trier, now Claire Denis. Jackson,
I'm sorry.
We're not bringing it back next week. All right, the movie challenge is here.
Jackson, it's not coming back because...
Why?
The amount of torture you've given me over the last months. And you're laughing in the background. But, I mean, you set me up real good here. After calling out the A24 fanboys, after saying I hate these types of movies, and also I've loved some, but I've hated some. And this is a quote from you. You're going to hate this, is your quote. You said, I went in with an open mind.
Sorry,
I
hang on.
wanted
Dan,
to like it.
For our listeners who aren't quite aware, because they've stuck around now for an hour and a half.
Look
of
at you, you're loving it.
Joaquin Phoenix ball tickling. What movie are you currently leading into?
Yeah.
What is this?
You're laughing. You're loving it because you knew this would happen.
Music to my ears.
You knew this would happen. High Life. Robert Pattinson.
High Life. Robert Pattinson, Claire Denis, a sci-fi film, the anti-Interstellar, or Seaman.
Oh, my God. You just knew. I could guarantee while you were watching it, you were saying, Dan is going to hate this. This might be the worst film I've ever seen. Okay? No, I'm serious. This is so fucking bad.
This cannot
is
be
terrible.
worse than your review for 365 days.
Oh, it could be, mate. This was so bad. This
kidding.
was one of the worst films I've ever seen. Okay, there's a quote for you. Absolutely disgraceful.
You must admit, it gives Cooper We're Docking a whole new meaning.
Fuck no.
Right,
You just set me up, mate.
Back to your
Honestly,
rant. Back to your rant.
I'm sorry, but it's just so boring. So boring. I've never seen a film that boring. There was one intense moment, and it took about an hour and a half to get there, and it's disturbing, where a guy runs in completely nude trying to rape a guy. I don't even want to talk about it because it's disgusting. Robert Pattinson mumbles his way through this thing. There's no narrative. I think the last 20 minutes, something happens, and it didn't. Look, something finally happens, but it's just still like, I don't give a fuck. So, I mean, you just put me through the ringer, Jackson. Seriously, I actually hated you for those 2 hours I was watching this. I literally said to Shaney, I hate Jackson. I actually said, no, I actually hate this guy. Not dislike. I literally said, no, seriously, I'm done. I hate this guy. I was so pissed off, man, after watching this film. 2 hours gone. And it felt like 5 hours. I watched this, I think it was like 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. I thought it was like 3 p.m.
Perfect movie viewing time for a slow sci-fi people on a Sunday morning, nonetheless.
Seriously, I thought it was 3 p.m. when the picture ended. It was 10 a.m. I had the whole day in front of me, but I'm like, I've got no motivation after this. This was... what did you rate this? I'm actually curious to hear your thoughts, because this is... Even for you, you have to admit, even for you film snob, sitting there in the corner, this must have been slow for you.
I was gripped.
Oh, I don't care if there's a pun intended. You were not gripped. I
don't know where the pun is, but I definitely was.
You were gripped in.
I could do another 2 hours of this movie.
Oh, come off it. You could not.
You might think I'm rilling you up, but
you must be something wrong with you.
Absolutely enjoyed this.
No,
I told you would hate it.
You're stirring me up. I don't believe you.
We have 30 episodes in. Every episode, we complain about talking over each other. I hope listeners find this entertaining, because it must sound like a fucking safety film.
I'm sorry.
You're trying to listen to the dialogue, but like,
I'm sorry. You're joking. You're pulling my leg. You couldn't enjoy this. I don't see how
enjoyed
anyone.
this.
How?
Fuck it. I'll give my final rating before you give yours. Okay, here goes. For me, this was a 7 out of 10. Deep space spaghettifications. Dan Allen Movies, please exit stage left. Listeners, if you would like to join the We Watch This Movie podcast and our soon-to-be spin-off All Things A24 podcast, please DM myself at Marshall on Film followed by an _ because my Nolan connoisseur, fanboy aficionado, all things Nolan, has left the building.
7 out of 10. He gave High Life the same as Joker. Now you're kidding. Now you're riling me up. This is disgusting, Jackson.
Give me another slow 70s sci-fi, because I fucking love this genre. I want to sit there. I want to get lost in the screen. I thought it was gorgeous. I love the lo-fi aesthetic. I thought Rob Pattinson brought plenty of depth. At least he had a warm feeling, because it was quite a dark movie. And his daughter, by that last 30 minutes, right up to that conclusion, I'm like, all right, I'm here. I'm with this. Where are we going to go next?
You're joking.
This left an impact on me.
I nearly fell asleep. It was so boring. Nothing happened. What was gripping? This is so like, actually, I was more entertained in 365. More entertained by a mile. By a mile. I would watch Artemis Fowl again.
No, come on. That's a big call.
Oh, you think I'm kidding? You wait till you hear my rating. It's not good.
All right, lay it on us, mate. Wait, before you
I don't think you're ready for it.
Before you do, I'm going to cut you off. Having watched High Life,
Yeah.
would you continue to watch more of these Rob Pattinson indie movies?
I don't think I can watch another Rob Pat movie after this. He's done his dash.
Because you actually said something to me off air, which was, for an actor that you love so much, you haven't liked any of his movies.
Well, there's no doubt he's a great actor. By far, he was the best in this. But there was no... that sex freak lady, she can dive off the cliff. The weird guy that was naked. I don't even know their names. I mean, I gave it the time of day. I don't think you understand. I sat there in my theatre room.
You've turned off 2 movies in this podcast already. I'm surprised you didn't do a third.
I did not turn it off as much as I wanted to. I wanted to turn it off, but I said, look, I'll stick it out. And it just got worse. It just continually got worse. And if you said, Dan, I'll give you $10,000 right now, watch this again. Your eyes are glued to the screen. I'd consider not doing that. So that can
you really are a whore for $1.
I mean,
come on, final
Jackson.
rating. Let's. I get it. You want to move on from this time in your life.
Right. Well, look, if it's this miserable, on my scale, a 1 out of 10 is unwatchable. For me, this is unwatchable, so it's going to be a 1 out of 10. I don't throw them out lightly. I think I've given 4 or 5 1 out of 10s in my life, and this is one of them. A24 have hit the bottom of the barrel finally. You compare Lighthouse and Midsummer to this. Oh, please give me Lighthouse again. Lighthouse is phenomenal compared to this. Incredible film compared to this. This is just disturbing, disgusting, terrible film. If Claire
all the more why I like it.
If the director's listening, I'm so sorry. I hope I'm not offending you. I probably have. You probably hate my guts. I'm so sorry. You definitely are capable of making a good film. In my eyes, this was not one of those good films. Just Jackson, this is why I'm axing this segment. I can't do this anymore. This was my final straw. It really was. Look at me. I'm not joking.
You are a broken down man. Please don't go dropping 24 kilos. Don't go bringing a gun into a children's hospital.
I'm literally broken, and this is coming from someone that looks forward to every A24 film. This is what you don't understand.
No, you don't. You couldn't have slogged off this distribution company any more than you possibly have in the 30 episodes we've done.
I can't wait to see Saint Maud. A24. I'm really excited to see it. And there was another one. I forget the name now, but there's 2 that I'm looking forward to seeing. So they still haven't lost me yet, but geez, they're getting close because they've had way more misses than hits for me. But yeah, High Life, I cannot recommend this film. And I mean, it'd almost be comical to give this to general moviegoers. I mean, they would not last a second in this film. They'd be lucky to last 10 minutes before turning this off. 99% of people on the earth. If you give it to every single person, I think 99% turn this off within 10 minutes. So
well,
I'm
for
not
our
alone.
thoughtful moviegoers and listeners out there who want a different kind of sci-fi, maybe harkening back to some of those Tarkovsky films from the early 70s like Solaris, give High Life a go.
I can't wait.
Even though the 2 of us together might give it an 8 out of 20, which comes down to
yes,
a 4 out of 10.
You're not going to like that one.
2 out of 5 if we keep going down with our denominations. Unfortunately, I have to take that as a victory here because he actually did go the worst, so it's probably still is a loss.
Claire, can't get any worse.
Claire Denis, we will revisit one of your movies. Dan, we will bring back the movie challenge. And the reason we are bringing it back is that for this week's episode, you recommended a movie for me to watch starring Willem Dafoe. And that was The Florida Project. another movie out from A24, which I believe High Life debuted in 2018 and Florida Project came out in 2017. Before I go on my thoughts about the movie, what are yours?
Florida Project. Oh, A24. Finally, they've had a hit. Fantastic. Really, really enjoyed the Florida Project. I gave it an 8 out of 10 straight out of the bat. That's high. I don't give those out lightly.
You gave Joker a 10.
I didn't give it an 8. Shut up. I mean, the cinephiles listening to this, they're thinking this guy's a Fruit Loop. He gave Joker a 10 out of 10 and a Midsummer a 4.
You've had your final rating. You've gone on now.
I enjoyed it.
5 minutes.
William Dafoe, you got to love him.
No, get out of here. Get out. This is all me. All right, here
Go
goes.
for it.
Stage is mine. All right, exit, mate. Come on. You've already quit this podcast once in this episode, let alone however many times
You're in the
before.
sound booth. I'm going out in the producer's seat. It's all yours.
Florida Project, no clue going in, other than Dan had clued me in that this was a mainly child-based cast. Started off thinking, okay, this is like a real indie film, maybe some improv going on, and close to 2 hours later, I was totally captivated, totally hooked. Willem Dafoe picked up a nom for Best Supporting Actor in this picture, and this might have been a better performance than his in The Lighthouse, but he wasn't even the star of this movie. Brooklyn Pierce, who I believe was 6 years old when they filmed, playing Mooney. Wow. This has got to be one of the best child performances ever on film, and the rest of the movie absolutely backed her up. Written and directed by Sean Baker, who I later learnt actually shot Tangerine. Tangerine, for our snobbish, cinephile, or thoughtful moviegoers out there, was the film shot entirely on an iPhone 5S. And for Sean Baker to have crafted such an interesting portrayal, it's kind of like... I don't think he's passing judgment on these people, you know, these marginalized demos that live on the fringe of society. In this picture, it's people living within a few miles or even just a couple kilometers of Disney World or Disneyland out there in Orlando, and they live not at the Magic Kingdom, but at the Magic Castle. I think he just wants to tell a truthful and honest story, and he absolutely did that here. Dan, our 2 stars who had next to no experience, Bria, I can't remember her surname, who played Haley. Did you know that she hadn't acted in anything before? And Sean Baker actually cast her after coming across her on Instagram, of all platforms.
These child actors were incredible.
Well, Bria, who played Haley, who couldn't have... I don't think she was any more than like 24 or 25 when it was shot. She'd never acted in anything in her life. She had maybe 2 months of workshopping before they called her in to do this 35-day shoot, and she knocked it out of the park. Looking at these characters, you could have told me that this entire cast was plucked off the street and I would have believed you. And it made for such an enthralling experience. I couldn't believe that close to 2 hours spent with 6-year-old children playing and yelling and screaming and being annoying wasn't all that grating, because I
know. How did he do it?
Despite being like a depressing world, I would go back. And this guy, Sean Baker, this director, writer, he is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
Listeners,
what's he doing? Do you know what he's doing next?
Here's something we heard of, and I think Dan knows where this is going.
Here we go.
Only in the last fortnight, former Disney star Bella Thorne launched an OnlyFans. For our listeners who might not know what an OnlyFans is, well, you know when you pay an entry fee to go to a strip club? Well, that's basically what you pay for and what you get with OnlyFans. Bella Thorne broke records, former Disney star, launches an OnlyFans within 24 hours, brings in 1 million projected for that month. OnlyFans confirm it. Biggest ever on that platform. A week later, she's now bringing in 2 million. Okay. She's now rumored to be attached to a Sean Baker project. At least they're working on something together. You know what? Sean Baker and Bella Thorne, sign me the fuck up after this film. Having no score, which Dan loves, not anything, just the sounds of the flora and the fauna and the wildlife and all the ongoings out there just outside Orlando, and this picture here for the Florida project. I loved it. And finally, that closing sequence when Jancy takes Mooney and runs off to Disneyland, or does she? Interesting childhood escape. I was like, yes. You know, I wasn't moved to tears, but it did resonate with me. And I've said it, Willem Dafoe, what a complicated portrayal.
Isn't he a great actor? Like, this just cements his legacy for me.
Another
He is-
guy with, I think, maybe 4 Oscar noms and not a win. Where's this guy's chance? But he's still
he'll
going to give
get
us
it.
some
He'll
gold
get
for
it.
sure.
He'll
For
get
me,
one
Dan,
eventually.
this came in at 8 out of 10 Magic Castles.
We agreed, finally. It took how many episodes for us to agree on a rating?
Oh, we've been there before, but especially in this one,
Not
it's been
often.
tough.
We haven't been there often. I think, did we both give Hamilton an 8?
I think we did.
I think you and me, for some reason, we settle on 8s together sometimes, but that's about it anyway.
Well, look, listeners, if you want to go in, you want to watch something it's hard to call it heartfelt, but it's sort of a coming of age story, maybe just a little bit too young, and at times it can be tough to watch. You will be moved. You will feel it. Charming is a little too positive. Go see The Florida Project. Have to recommend it. Great film.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's I'm glad you enjoyed it. I thought you would. It had a 24 on the front, so
don't say I'm gonna like it, but I'm gonna like it.
Have you ever given an A24 a bad review?
Dan, I haven't seen enough A24 films. I know you like to think of me as an A24 snob, but there's got to be some out there that I really aren't gonna like.
Are you sure? I don't think you've ever given one that you've seen anyway.
No, definitely not. I must say they are putting out banger after banger.
Apparently, have you ever seen Sea of Trees? Oh, God.
I haven't even heard of Sea of Trees.
Oh, no. The Sea of Trees. Matthew McConaughey, Naomi Watts,
Oh, I like to.
Watanabe. 3 great actors, Jackson. When I went into this, I couldn't wait. Oh.
Sounds like I'm missing a true
Oh, yeah, you need to see that. Write that one in.
for sure.
All these other ones, I'm looking at a list now, they're all a bit, they're real B graders. Under the Silver Lake is one that you need to see as well, which I didn't like. But yeah, I don't think Swiss Army Man you liked. You liked The Killing of the Sacred Deer. Oh no, you haven't seen that. American Honey you liked. Midsummer you liked. Under the Skin you liked. The Lobster, have you seen that?
I haven't.
You would like that probably. It Comes at Night. Joel Edgerton, that was good. Hereditary. Have you seen Locke?
I haven't seen Locke, but we have mentioned it here on the podcast before. Dan, you might have said the movie challenge is dead, but we could definitely bring back some recommendations for our listeners come episode 31.
According to this list, top 5 is Florida Project, The Last Black Man in San Francisco, Moonlight, Lady Bird, and 8th Grade. They're the top 5.
Oh, is that the Bo Burnham film? I've heard awesome things about 8th Grade.
Yeah, it's good. I'd agree with those top 5, to be honest. So maybe I'm not all that bad with A24. Anyway, they're getting more time than Tenet these days.
Then what?
Tenet. All right, Jackson.
And that's the third cue for the episode.
I think we need a new segment, so maybe we'll bring it out to our listeners because we cannot bring this segment back. I just cannot leave.
You're not going to allow yourself to be put through such torture again.
I just can't. I've only got so much time in the day, and I just can't allow you to rip me to shreds like this. So we'll have to come up with a new segment.
You could do this back. I've given you every opportunity. We've done this 4 or 5 times now. Probably
I'm not that
more.
mean. I'm not that mean.
Yes, you are. You're the editor.
I don't make you sound bad, do I? All right. Well, that's it for today's episode.
You probably just cut out my response there.
I feel like we've gone for 2 hours. Yeah, we nearly have. Wow. Big one. We really do ramble.
Movie.
We really ramble.
We've gone through this with a fine comb. If there's anything left of Joaquin Phoenix performance, well, we must have grabbed it. I don't know where this is going either.
All right, Jackson, where can the listeners find us?
Listeners, if you've enjoyed what you've heard, and we sure damn hope you have, you can check us out on Instagram, on Facebook, on Letterboxd, on Twitter, even on TikTok, at We Watch This Podcast. Chuck us a follow, hit subscribe if you're listening to us on YouTube, rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Please shoot us a DM. Like Dan said, we want to hear what you want for our next segment. We want to hear your suggestions, your recommendations. Maybe even you want to feature on your own mini-sode. Chuck us a message. Dan, where can listeners find you?
They can find me at Dan Allen Movies on Instagram, Letterboxd, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Tumblr, Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, and the list goes on. And you can find my gaming channel, Dan Allen Gaming, on YouTube. Make sure you get over there and subscribe, as well as subscribing to the We Watch This YouTube. Please go over there and subscribe. Jackson, it's been a pleasure.
If you want to check out one further bit of content from Dan, every week he's putting out the PS5 Central podcast. What's the PS5 Central podcast? We'll give it a click and find out. Listeners, you can find me at Marshall on Film, __ at the aforementioned platforms. With that, he is Dan Allen Movies. I am
Jackson Marshall.
Also known as at Marshall on Film. And we are out of time. Thanks for listening.
See you later. Don't forget your refrigerator.